All right, fig lovers, we are live. Well, it should be live. Let me do a little double check here. By the way, a little bit under the weather. It looks like we are live. Okay, very good. But I wonder what image is being used, if any, for. Uh, I apologize here for the little bit of the delay. Okay, there we go. We should be live. All right, that's good. All right. So, what I want to talk to you guys about in today's video is that we're not going to uh, we're going to discuss a lot of things about varieties today. So new to this, you haven't done one of these live streams before, would highly recommend, by the way, uh, put some questions if you have any in the chat. At the end of this, I'll get back to it. So this is going to be a Q&A as well. I have a whole list of things I want to get through and talk to you guys about. But then once we get through that, I'll answer all the questions in the chat for the Q&A section of this. So do me a favor, and if you have questions, put them in the chat. So what we're going to do today, though, I'm a little bit under the weather, so I just want to mention that really quickly. And so I've seemed a bit out of sorts. This intro has been really mumbled and all over the place. We're gonna get it here. We're gonna rein it in a second. Um, but yeah, so I would, I'm a little bit under the weather. That's why we're doing this today at 1:40 p.m. Um, and I do want to mention a couple announcements before we get started as well. So first and foremost, we haven't really been doing any tasting videos on the channel, on the YouTube channel. We have, of course, we do the shorts, but normally what I like to do is I like to, um, man, where is the, let's go back here. So what I've been doing is putting out shorts, and you could see there's literally, I think, almost like hundreds of them at this point. There will be hundreds of them by the end of the year. I'm just putting out like three a day, and I still have many, many more to publish. And I probably will continue putting out three a day. There's so many I still even haven't published. There's a lot I haven't even edited or even uploaded yet. So I know these are not great videos in terms of um, exactly all the little details that all you guys are probably used to. Because if you go to the latest video we did, we talked about the Hibernanca fig, and that was without a doubt the one fig I knew I wanted to talk to people about. This video, we're gonna do what we did with the Hibernanca fig times like 20, because I'm gonna talk about a lot of varieties in this video in this live stream. Um, but if you want to see content like that, where these Hibernanca figs are, or we're reviewing a fig like the Hibernanca fig in a lot of detail, then I would recommend going to the shorts, because that's honestly where you're going to find them. Now, you can find the shorts on YouTube, but you can also go on Instagram or Facebook. And I have been posting these reels non-stop. It's every video I post on YouTube, I'm posting on Instagram and Facebook. So all these reels are going here. And then also what we did recently, we posted this video, which was a comparison. It was almost a 10-minute long video of Smith versus Cessac versus Texas BA1. So my point is, these longer reviews of these varieties that we do and have done in the past, they're going to be in this longer format here on YouTube and Facebook. Or I'm sorry, on Facebook and Instagram. Guys, I might be so sick that I don't even know if I can do this, which is crazy, but bear with me here. Bear with me. Sorry. So, long story short, as I was saying, and I kind of have alluded to already, these longer videos especially the Hibernanka one that we've published, and we've been publishing these for years of really in-depth big variety information. Um, these just don't do well with the YouTube algorithm. So if they're not going to do well for my algorithm, what they do is they actually hurt all my other videos. And they hurt them a lot. So I'm not doing them anymore. And the only way I'm going to do them is if it's a really special fig like the Hibernanka fig that people really ought to know about. Which, by the way, that one did fantastic. I was very surprised. People listened and actually watched the video all the way through, which really helped the algorithm there. But also, um, these are not, I'm not going to be publishing them very frequently. So, but if you want to see them, that's my point. If you really want to see them, we have about 10 to 15 of them coming out on Facebook and Instagram. So you have to just follow me there. Like I said, with this one here, comparing Smith and Cessac and Texas BA1. For all the other videos, if you want to see what the figs look like and the tasting of them, we're doing the 1 minute shorts. And that's what a short is. It's just 1 minute or less. Okay, so that's announcement number one. Announcement number two, man, it's really hard to get that out. Sorry, guys. Um, we are gonna have a fig tree sale coming up probably in the next 2 weeks. I have to wait until tax season ends. I know a lot of you guys are, again, are very new to this channel. We oh man, I'm really having a hard time. We had a a lot of new members, a lot of new subscribers this year. And I think part of that is for many reasons. The blog is doing well. If you haven't already subscribed to the blog, check it out. There's so much information there, it's crazy. But because this does so well with SEO and Google in terms of search results, a lot of people see the blog before they even see the YouTube channel. And then they see the blog, and that directs them right to the YouTube channel. So there's a lot of new people that are showing up. And then also all the people on Instagram and Facebook that I've been posting a lot on recently, that's also helping. So a lot of you guys are not familiar with how this works in terms of our sale. The sale is going to start as it does every year after tax season. So I have to wait until October 15th. If you're not familiar, I'm a CPA. That's what I do for a living. Some people think I do figs full time. I wouldn't be doing this right now if I did figs for a living because I probably would just take the day off. But on my day off, essentially, I'm doing figs, and that's normally what how it goes. Um, so if you want to do the tree sale, you can just go to the store here at the top. It takes you to the store here, and you can see all the fig varieties I have for sale. We still have quite a few of the 1 gallons, and we will have probably more 1 gallons in about 2 weeks available. But we will have a long list of 3 and 5 gallon trees for sale. And this year, I'm going to try to ship them when they're not dormant. Hopefully, the weather cooperates. My trees are just going dormant, some of them, especially if they've already fruited. They're kind of already on their way. So it just is what it is. But if you want trees, they're going to be available in 2 weeks, and there's going to be a wide selection. I've already gone through every single potted tree I have, and I do this every year. I make a list of them, and then I take inventory essentially. Yeah, this is some real accounting stuff here, guys. And I take inventory, and then I decide what it is that I want to get rid of, what it is I want to plant in the ground, and what it is I might want to keep in a container. And so the ones I want to get rid of, whether they're poppies, whether they are trees that just don't do well here and would do better in a drier place, whatever the case may be, this is a huge advantage for people that are just kind of getting started. You want a bigger tree. And so we'll have those available. And we'll specify on the website what size they're in. You'll see that on the listing. Also, the fig cutting sale will happen. It happens every year. People are going to ask questions, so I might as well just cover that right now. And so that's going to happen always at the end of November. Now, we might have a really hard frost earlier than normal, and that could change things, but generally I have to wait till a couple freezes come in, a couple light frosts, or a hard frost. And then once that happens, the trees drop all their leaves. It's usually after Thanksgiving. And then usually around the end of November, beginning of December, I'll start the sale. I don't remember when we started last year. It might have been actually rather late. But the sale only lasts for a very short period of time. And I imagine it's going to be really quick this year. I only have about 1,500 to 2,000 cuttings we take every year, and they sell out in about 5 weeks. Most of them sell out pretty quick, but I think we this sale may only last like 2 weeks this year. We just have so much traffic on this blog. It's incredible. All the hard work I've put into this has really paid off. And like I said, any free time I get goes right into this blog. And I would highly recommend it because we're going to talk about varieties today. We're not going to talk about growing the trees, but there's so many things up here. Like the fig tree timeline it's such an amazing resource for people. Um, we've covered just about every topic, and you can just use the search bar here and search for anything. Like pruning, here's a whole bunch of articles about pruning. Growing tips, same thing. The fig commandments, that's a great resource. 11 mistakes to avoid, that's another great article to read. That is like years of mistakes in one article. Um, so yeah, let's talk about the varieties now. Now, I did actually have the opportunity to go and meet some people at the Long Island Fig Festival this year. There's a lot of festivals everywhere. It depends on where you guys live. You should join some communities if you want to be a part of these. They're regularly posted in these communities of different parts of the country. Um, they can be a great thing to go to. And I went to Bass's gathering this year too, but the one at Long Island was really special. It just shout out to anybody that was there. Uh, it was a really interesting thing to see all of these relatively new fig growers in one place, and they formed a nice community. And it was just really about the love of figs. It wasn't about anything else. And that reminded me of what my local fig grower community was before a lot of them moved away. So shout out to Matt, Jamie, Raphael, Danny, Coop, Vito. The list goes on and on. Mario, we had a really special group for many years. And unfortunately, a lot of us just either stopped growing figs as much or being as passionate, or they moved away. So it just gave me this awesome, feeling that, hey, this is happening again, but for other people. And it was really cool to see. Um, Shout out to Ron, by the way, for hosting it. Anyway, I think he wants to do that for public next year. If the public can be invited, I'm sure I will let everybody know. Anyway, so that was really cool, but everybody that was there was asking me questions, or I was trying to give people advice, and it was a real awakening of like, hey, everybody's on their own fig journey, and that's what I want to start off by saying when we talk about these varieties. You guys take this advice or not take the advice. It's almost like I just started doing a lot of rock climbing. And when you're doing bouldering specifically, there's something called beta, which is the puzzle of how to do the boulder. The boulders are so hard that it's really difficult to do them. Once you figure out how to do it, it can become a lot easier. And so one of the rules, or at least one of the things you might not want to do, is share with somebody else how to do the boulder, because then that kind of ruins it for them. It makes it easier. And there's a joy of like figuring out how to do the boulder. So, if you guys want to just do your own thing, be my guest. But I have for years put together so much information on these varieties that is public and free for not just my own climate, but for other climates, people in other climates, that it's a great starting point. And I would highly recommend using it as a starting point. And don't do the stuff that I say don't do. You know, or what am I trying to say? If somebody says something's really bad, don't do that unless you're really trying to learn. Because I did all the mistakes, I did all the things that people say you shouldn't do, and learned from that. But if you really want to take this advice to heart and make use of it, just don't do the stuff that I say not to do. Um, really try to follow the advice, and that's the point I'm trying to make. Is like I put out all this information, yet I find that people are just going to grow the crappy varieties anyway. Um, and it's almost like what the heck am I doing this for? In a way, that's um, a funny way to put it, I guess. Um, in a way, I know that a lot of people are benefiting from this information. Don't get me wrong, but I think some of you guys are just what are we doing here? You're banging your head against the wall. What I would rather have you do is take the information I've already put out there for all of you guys. I mean, in this post here, the best varieties for humid climates. You can go here and read about all of the varieties I have gathered over the years and have tested. I talk about all the traits that make them amazing. I don't just say this is good and this is bad. I say why, and I've written about it. A lot of people will say this is good and this is bad, and they never put into words why, and they can't actually describe why it is that it's so good. There's a big difference between a video and putting something in writing. I think videos are great, this live stream's great, but if you can put it in writing, to me, that puts you on another level of knowledge and expertise. So the best fig growers in the world, Condit, Hans, Bode, these people have all published books and have written things about these figs. So, yeah, I just think there's this is I don't know how else to say it other than I think you should just take this information and use it. And not only use it, but take it to another level. Uh I kid you not, I can count on less, well maybe there's maybe like one or two people that have ever recommended a fig variety to me, and it was in addition to this list. So there isn't many people out there who are taking this list and then improving on it or adding to it. And I would love it if someone would contact me and say, Ross, this variety's so good, you ought to grow it, and it belongs on this list of yours. That'd be great. So yeah, there really is only two people that I can think of. Although some of these varieties have been in existence for a very long time, so you know, can't obviously I can't that that's a whole different thing. Anyway, so all right, that's my rant. Now, again, everyone's on their own fig journey. Okay. The other thing I want to say is that you need to be open-minded. This is like a lot of getting a lot of crap before I talk about these varieties. But the I think that people are so stuck in their ways about figs from the past that they can't see the new ones. I don't know what that is. I'm hearing people, especially because I've been posting a lot of these shorts and talking a lot about these different varieties, and I'm saying this one's good and this one's bad. And by the way, it's only 1 minute, so how much can you really say in 1 minute? But some people are getting like offended, um, which is crazy because when I talk about varieties like Celeste, improved Celeste, and any of the LSU figs, there's just such a passion and diehard attitude for these figs that it's too much dogma. It's too much ideology. There's too much almost like tribalism in these figs. And what you need to do is just take a step back, detach yourself from the fig variety that is so special to you for some reason, for whatever reason it is, and just throw that out the window and look at them objectively. That's what I try to do. That's all I've done on this channel is try to be open-minded. So if you're one of these people, it's like me and you're doing this, you're probably watching right now, or you're eventually going to watch this live stream. You this is a really important lesson. And most people don't they are not open-minded enough for this hobby. So if a variety, as an example, is really good one year and then terrible the next year, it's going to be really hard for me to keep saying it's amazing or it deserves to be on this list. And I'm trying really hard not to even add a fig that doesn't belong on this list to begin with. Because once it's on this list, I feel so strongly about it that it belongs on the list, even if it has a bad year. But at some point, if it keeps having a bad year, well, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe it really doesn't belong on this list. And to me, that's a lot of these LSU figs and a lot of the improvements of Celeste. And so, people really, like I said, they're so passionate about these LSU figs. It drives me crazy because I know for a fact, it's almost fact at this point, with all the knowledge I've gained, I guess it's not a fact. I'll be open-minded. I'll say 99%, 1% of me thinks that this could not be true, but 99% of me thinks that this is a fact, let's say. And so I'm willing to be open minded. But varieties like LSU Champagne, LSU Purple, LSU Tiger, LSU Gold, LSU Huye, Improved Celeste, O'Rourke, none of these are an improvement of Celeste. And for some reason, people get so upset with that statement. Now, what is an improvement? Okay, if you want to say they're bigger, which almost all of them are, they're bigger. Is bigger always better? No, it's not, especially if you live in a humid place. All right, well, improved Celeste is supposed to be earlier. Here, it wasn't any earlier. In fact, I don't even. I have to really start to examine my improved Celeste tree because I think it looks like improved Celeste, but it's not ripening the first of the year with all the other very early figs. So that gives me a little bit of pause there. So I will remain open to improved Celeste, and I am open to all these. But if you just look objectively at what Celeste is as a fig, it is the most rain resistant fig that's ever been created. And to say that somebody in a lab bred this thing and improved it is a really, really bold statement because you already have the best fig there is and you're trying to improve it. And the amount of genetic variability that comes from seedlings is absolutely incredible. So I challenge you, show me an LSU fig that beats Celeste. Now, okay, I heard from my friend Brian Rodrigue, who lives in Louisiana, one of the fig growers I have respect for. And Brian had said that I think he said that Improved Celeste gives him three different crops of Maine in Louisiana. Now that's amazing. But is there other figs? I would have the question for Brian. Is there other varieties that, you know, can do the same thing? Can Celeste do the same thing? Um, I guess he's probably inferring that Celeste isn't doing that because he probably would have mentioned that. But regardless, I don't see any real improvements here in my yard, in my climate. There is, by the way, no improvement to Celeste other than Black Celeste. And Black Celeste is so much so different than Celeste in terms of flavor and eating experience. Well, just really just the flavor, I would say. Uh, that it has to be better. The flavor is just simply better. And all the other growing characteristics, almost everything else about it is exactly the same. So, that's the real improvement. And it's actually just a mutation of Celeste. It's not a red variety using Celeste as the parent. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm growing at least 15 different Celeste figs here on purpose because I know how amazing Celeste is, and I want to find a slightly better strain, a slightly better source of it. Not every Celeste fig is created equal, but so far, most of them are so similar that I can't differentiate much at all from them. So it's been a little bit disappointing, actually. In this article, we talk about a fig called the One, and the One could be a slight improvement to Celeste. Um, but I don't really think this year it's displayed that. It's supposed to have a shorter hang time. At least that's what I observed last year. I didn't really notice that this year, and because it has a shorter hang time, it produces a higher quality fig more consistently. That wasn't the case this year. In fact, all of them are basically the same except Stallion has a slightly more red pulp, which I think gives it a slightly more intense berry flavor. But it's so slight that it's almost like, what's the difference? It's not a huge deal. And other Celeste I have more of a browner interior, or some people might claim that their Celeste is slightly larger, and it's like, okay, well, some of them are going to be slightly larger. But when you plant them in the ground, they're going to be slightly larger anyway, on average. So, yeah, this whole trial of 15 plus different Celeste now, I mean, it really is probably above 15 that I've gathered. I'm not really getting many many differences out of it. There is a fig called Violet Marseille, and Violet Marseille is a type of Celeste. Hmm, see if I can find the picture here. Nope, having a hard time. There it is. So this is a what I had noticed so far. This fig, without a doubt, you can even see it in this photo here. It has a much thicker neck than any of the other Celeste strains. They're all teardrop shaped, but the neck is rather thin and skinny. This has a fatter neck without a doubt, very consistently. And so this is one of the actual visual differences that you can see with the different Celeste strains. Also, there's a fig called Constance that I'm growing, and this reminds me very much so of Celeste. If you look at the pictures here, it doesn't look similar at all. But Constans, Las Carreteres, the White Cross, or There's another one in here. La Croix Blanche is the White Cross. There's also Las Carreteras Unan Uban. These, I think, are slight variations of Celeste that have happened over time in France. You can see they're from the southwest of France. Yeah. Las Carreteras is very similar to a type of fig that is very classic throughout the southwest of France and very rarely tastes good. The only exception I have found for several years is the White Cross and Las Carreteras. Now, both of these, at least Constans, is very similar to these figs. So that's the type of fig that he's talking about that you find in the southwest of France. And when I got to eat it this year, which I have to upload the video, I don't believe we, nope, haven't uploaded it yet. Let me see if I can find the, hmm, yeah, I don't think I haven't edited it yet. Anyway, long story short, there's a video I have in here and some photos I have somewhere that describes and I get to taste these Constance figs. And I thought for years they matched Pastiliere. They were going to be similar to Pastiliere, but they weren't. And I actually think they're almost like a mutation of Celeste that's different enough, but very similar enough that there should be a lot of focus on these figs. It's at least what I'm going to do is put a lot of my attention towards those because I'm curious to see if any of those can be improvements to Celeste. That's my point. Um, and so far, when I eat Constance, I feel like I'm eating a Celeste, but it comes in a very different package. So obviously, these figs look so different. You can see they've got cracking in them. The leaf pattern is slightly different, although the leaf pattern on Constance is very similar. Um, the shape of the fruits is different. So there's a lot of differences, but when I eat them, I think, oh my God, that's so similar to Celeste. So yeah, that's kind of my rant there about Celeste, improved Celeste, all the LSU figs. I really like LSU Tiger still. Um, the skin on that's incredible. The problem is I find that a lot of them are ripening, at least this year, they ripened at the same time. And at that same time, I had a lot of fruit fly presence, and a lot of the fruit flies got the tiger figs. And I don't know what that's about. So hopefully that doesn't continue. The tree produced a ton of fruit. It's a beautiful tree. Um, but for all intensive purposes, the LSU figs are not anywhere close to the figs that are on this list that we're talking about today. And some of the additions I'm going to talk about. Um, they're clearly a notch lower, maybe even two notches lower, depending on which one you're looking at. I mean, LSU Gold is garbage. Um, so if you're in Louisiana or you're in the South, then maybe these varieties are for you. I don't know. I'm not growing them down there, but I have a really hard time believing that if it doesn't do well here, um, it's gonna perform somewhat similar down in the South. Now, if you're getting multiple crops, you're picking these figs when they're barely ripe because it rains so much. All right, I could see that. You know, maybe there's a different argument to be made there, but here's my other point on that. There's so many figs in this list and others I'm adding that I am so spoiled with figs. It's unreal. And so I don't think really saying anything negative about the LSU figs is really all that terrible. Okay? Because if you look at the other varieties that have just come into favor, some that I have been talking about that really are not really well known just yet. Others like Smith. I mean, I can go on and on and on about some of these in here. These figs are just honestly spoiling me. So we don't have to put up with. these LSU figs. We just don't. And I would challenge you, if you live in these southern climates, grow one of these other ones. Just because it has the LSU name attached to it, don't think it's like the best thing since sliced bread or whatever the hell the saying is. All right, I've been ranting a lot. That was one of the rants. That was just the rant I needed to get through. I'm sorry. That would need that needed to be done. All right, there's no more ranting in this actually. Um, I just needed to put my thoughts out there about about Celeste. I feel so passionate about Celeste because it is an amazing fig, you know, and people don't give it any credit because it's just Celeste and it's so common and everyone has it, yada yada yada. And but it really is the best fig that you can grow in a humid place. What do we always say? What do I always say about the best tasting fig? It's the one that ripens at the highest quality the most consistently and is the most ripe the most consistently. And Celeste just does that. It's just a fact. It does it more than any of the other ones. All right. So here we go. Now I want to bring you guys your attention to two figs that I think were the best figs of the year. And I think this may have been the case for like, in actuality, one of them was the best, been the best fig for 3 years in a row. 3 years in a row, this has been the best fig here in my yard. Actually, there's one more rant. I'm so sorry, guys. There's one more rant I have to get through. Okay, so the best fig for 3 years in a row is called Campaniere, and I said that it was the best tasting fig I think in prior years. But if you just objectively look at the performance of this tree so far, it is the best fig I have, I think. Um, now, here's where it does one better than Celeste. Um, okay, I think I'm getting a little, little carried away here. What I mean to say is that Campaniere and Teramo have produced the highest quality figs the most consistently here in my yard this season. And Campaniere for 3 years for the last 2 years has produced the best tasting figs. This year, other varieties have that prize above Campaniere for the best tasting fig. But this year they produced the highest quality fruit the most consistently. Now you might be thinking, all right, well, why did Celeste do that? Well, I think Celeste could do that and compete with these two. It's just I don't think my in-ground Celeste trees are established enough. At least the black Celeste trees are not. And there are other varieties I could put into this category too. But my point with these two varieties is that they very simply produce a very quality fruit very consistently. They dry on the tree every single time. You even can get a fully dried fig off of these. By the way, I got some fully dried figs off of Celeste in the past, and this year I got some fully dried figs off of Verdino del Nord from Vladimir Rocco. So if you can get a fully dried fig off of any of these trees, that is an amazing fig by default. There is no if, ands, or buts, or you know what, Ross is talking out of his butt and he doesn't know anything or whatever it is. Prove it to me. If you can get some fully dried figs on your tree in this climate, and here's the other weird thing. Um, I had posted about this on Instagram not too long ago, and I claimed that these two figs were doing this so that it was amazing. And I would rather have 5 trees of Campanile and Teramo to 1 tree of Hardy Chicago. Here's the post right here. Throughout the years, I've eaten several truly dried figs on my Campanile trees. This is very difficult here in this climate. It's incredible. You need dry periods for this to occur. For this to occur, of course. Uh, but every single fig on these 2 trees dries on the tree at least somewhat every time I pick one. Um, and then I said I would rather have a ratio of 5 of these trees to one of Hardy Chicago, which is incredible just to say that. Um, and I know that's a shocker because there's, again, so much love for Hardy Chicago that people hearing this is going to make their brains go berserk. Again, because they're so attached to it, just like the LSU figs, just like improved Celeste, that they can't be open-minded enough to see that there is an alternative. Now, in no way am I saying that Hardy Chicago is a bad fig. It's on my list. It's on my list here, people. It's at the very top. So I would just rather have these because Hardy Chicago just takes a longer time to dry. It's not that you can't get a fully dried Hardy Chicago fig, which I've come close to many times. I probably have just picked them too soon because they look so good. Um, so it is possible here. It just takes much longer. And so the hang time of Teramo and Campanile is much shorter than these others. You get a dried fig. I think it's in man, I wish I took note of this. By about I think it's day 3 or 4, the fig is I don't know how to put this exactly. It's somewhat dried, let's just say. So what I would recommend is growing these trees for yourself. See for yourself. You don't believe me. You think, oh, I'm just pumping these 2 varieties. I actually don't really even have many Teramo trees. I only have one. I wish I had more. I don't even have many cuttings of Teramo to sell. I barely even sell the variety in terms of any plant material whatsoever. So I don't know how any of this could be hype. This is just what I've gathered of growing Hardy Chicago for many years, Campanile for many years, and Teramo for many years. These are incredible figs. Not only that, but Teramo has an acidity and a tang that you don't find in many other figs. Now, I can't even believe I'm saying this because I had grown Teramo in pots for a few years before eventually planting it in the ground. And there's another one I grew called Brandon Street Unknown. I don't recall if I ever grew Nebo. I may have grown Nebo before, which I believe to be very similar to these. And then there's another fig called Brown Sugar Crunch that my friend Chris found. Shout out to Chris. These are all very similar. By the way, shout out to Big Bill who found Teramo in Maryland. And so these are all very similar to each other, long story short. And never would I would have said that these figs taste any good. They're about an average tasting fig, nothing special. But ever since last year and this year of having my Teramo tree in the ground, getting it to the point where I pick every single Teramo fig basically dried on the tree, they are unbelievable. So the longer you let them ripen, the better they taste, the more that flavor develops. Not every fig is like that. And in fact, there's a couple I should talk about, like especially White Triana. I find there's a particular sweet spot to pick it, and I had been waiting too long in the past to pick that one, which I really should get into at some point in this video. Yeah, put White Triana on here. Okay, so Campanile and Teramo highest quality figs the most consistently this entire season. Now, this is where it's going to get a little crazy, okay? Um, if I were to choose one fig variety, it would not be Campaniere or Teramo. Now, Teramo does produce Breva. It produces Breva, produced Breva this year. In prior years, I've had Campaniere Breva. It's supposed to produce more Breva. That's what I've read. Uh, I have not seen that to be the case. So until either one of them can produce large quantities of Breva, I would not put them in this category. But we did a video recently. If I could choose one fig variety, here's three for any climate. And first of all, I can't choose one fig variety. I don't think there's a world in which I could grow less than 15 fig varieties. And we can talk about that more in this video, in this live stream. But again, three of them I think check all the boxes, which are they're rain resistant, they're early, they produce Breba, they're hardy, they produce tasty figs, which are the three of them are Violet de Bordeaux, Green Michurinska, and Moro de Caneva. So that's my point. Um, these are figs that I feel like it's almost like how do I put this exactly? So they are still producing very high quality fruits, but I don't think to the level and the consistency that Teramo and Campaniere have. Now, I prefer eating green Michurinska probably over, well, maybe not even Teramo. Maybe not over Campaniere. They're pretty darn similar, um, at the same tier, I would say, of eating experience. But Teramo's got a really thick skin, an interesting, tang to it. Campaniere has incredible qualities as well. It has like a minerality and a clay-like flavor to it. It also has a interesting, very different berry flavor. Um, although Green Michurinska is like your classic Adriatic fig. Long story short, what we talked about in this video is that all three of these check all the boxes, and I'd rather have these than so many other varieties, mainly because if I were to compare Green Michurinska to an Adriatic fig, they're very similar. There's almost no difference in terms of their eating experience. But one of them, the Green Michurinska, produced for me 40 Breva this year. The figs ripen about 2 to 3 weeks earlier. They ripen before Hardy Chicago, by the way. Um, and they taste so similar. And they're going to produce three crops. We have the third crop coming in very soon on my Ronde Bordeaux trees, my Moro de Caneva trees, and my Green Michurinska tree, and Brianzola Rosa, by the way. So these figs are just way more productive. Is really, I think, the point. You get the same eating experience at an earlier date. Um, however, I don't think there's a world in which I could not grow one of the Adriatic figs. That's the problem. Um, it's just, yeah, I don't. It would be really hard for me to not grow them because you end up having a fig that ripens earlier and later. There is definitely a gap where the other trees are done, then the Adriatic figs come in and fill in that gap before the third crop of figs that they could potentially produce. So, and by the way, they're slightly tastier. Um, I think a fig like White Madeira number one and Conetana is one of them that I wanted to talk about, and Paradiso Bronze VS. But even JH Adriatic, once you plant these Adriatic figs in the ground, they're unbelievable. Unbelievable. In a pot, they're good. But I'm telling you, getting them in the ground is like a totally different experience. And so I really, really like these Adriatic figs. You almost can't even get enough of them. I know there's so many names for it. People always complain about, how many names there are for them, and I have five of them, and I only wanted to have one, and yada yada yada. I'm telling you, they're some of the best figs you can grow, and that's pretty much anywhere. And I think it's one of them figs you just have to grow to some extent. You have to have at least one, and if you have many of them, I wouldn't be upset about it. For me, they're incredible. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about them. All right. So there's the Celeste figs, Campaniere and Teramo. We talked about Hard to Chicago. Caneva's, by the way, really good. I think people are catching on to that fig finally. I don't know what it is. I've been talking about these figs for years. Some of you guys can attest to it. How long have I been talking about Campaniere? And I was like, oh, it's going to be so good. It's going to be so good. And the same thing with Moro de Caneva and Verdino del Nord and Ruciola de Elba has been incredible this year too. Finally, I think people are catching on. And my point is, we're finally getting to a point where we're putting behind some of the old crap. If you look at the fig varieties that you can get at any mail order nursery, brown turkey, English brown turkey, Hardy Chicago, Violet de Bordeaux, White Marseille, Cadota, all these figs, if you really think about all the ones that are commonly found, there's a number of figs now that are just definitively, in my mind, way better than those. And I think people are finally coming to that realization. And yeah, at some point, you really won't even hear, I think. Well, we always will hear something about some of these, but there's a wave of people finally getting it, is what I'm trying to say. Um, all right. Now, I want to talk about the best fig I ate this year, uh, best tasting fig I ate this year, and some of the other ones that taste really good. So, this is now we're moving on to people out there who are in these drier places, or maybe you want to just grow the best tasting figs. I've said this, like we just said, in humid climates, it's not really about taste. It's about which one ripens the best, the most consistently at the highest quality. Uh, for people in drier places, you can get away with just growing the tastiest ones. And that's what you really should be focusing on, in my opinion, is covering a wide range of crops, having a Breva producer, having a tree that's going to produce multiple main crop figs, figuring out how to prune your trees to get them to do that. And they should just be generally tastier than others. Now, what is the tastiest fig? Let's define that. I think we didn't define what the best figs are for humid climates, other than what I just said about they ripen at the highest quality the most consistently. But in this article, we talk about it. So I didn't go into things like the hang time. I didn't go into things like, they taste good even when underripe, or I didn't go into certain things about the skin and all that. But let's define really quickly what is the best tasting fig? What if you were to visualize that? What is that to you? For me, I think it's a fig that has a good berry flavor, has a level of acidity to it. Not too much acidity, but certainly some of that. It's sweet. Um, it has a chewier, thicker, leathery skin, is a good way to put it. So it has a chewy skin that has texture, not um, not a thick skin that's intrusive, but a skin that you actually want to eat. Also, the texture of the pulp is very thick. So if you put all this together, you basically get the Coldenoms. Now, here in my yard, the Coldenoms uh, don't have that acidity sometimes. Now, a fig like Black Madeira, which is undoubtedly in this conversation, um, I don't think has the texture that the Coldenams have. Now, if you live in a really hot and dry place, it's probably going to have that awesome texture. But here, it's really difficult for me to get that consistently. So I don't consider that in that category of checking all the boxes, especially because the Coldenams have a texture that's unlike any other. It's just so thick and jammy that it's incredible. So I have to give the Coldenams extra points. However, there's one fig in particular that seems to have more acidity to it and a better overall quality to it than any of the other Coldenams. And so far to me, now this could change in the future. Everything I've ever said in this video could change in the future. But this could definitely change, which is so far my favorite one is a fig called Sarda. Now, this is a really weird, I've had a really weird time with this fig. So there's a lot of backstory. I got this fig variety from a grower named Yatama. He used to be on our figs many years ago. It's a community of growers that are hobbyists, and I don't know where he went. Shout out to Yatama. He's a really nice guy. And if you look at Ponza's book right here, it's definitely a Coldenam type, but you can see some of them have like a different shape slightly, maybe not as much of the neck. Um, this here looks like the picture that's used is Coldenam Roja or Coldenam Grease. I don't know why this picture's here. I should get his book in front of me. Let me read his book real quick. You just have to find it. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I again, I'm really under the weather. It's difficult for me to communicate, and I thank you for bearing with me here. Even just trying to put things the way I want to put them is a delicate thing, and I think I've been struggling to do that in this video, but nonetheless, we're getting by. Why am I having a hard time finding? Yeah. Hmm. Okay. All right. It's not in this section. It's not in that one either. 56. I'm We're almost there, guys. Here we go. 59. Okay. Okay. So the fig tree is located in Son Granada, dry, arid land, very low rainfall, medium, even reduced development, light branches, not very thick foliage, spherical canopy, regular harvest of figs at the end of August, medium to high productive yield, pyriform, medium in size, metric and uniform, light purple in color, very few cracks with a thick skin and medium texture. They don't present abnormal formations, but they do present a high percentage of coupled fruits. The pulp is intense red, very sweet and tasty, with a almost inexistent pendicle, which is, I believe, another word for the stem. Oh. They have no a difficulty removing them from the tree by the stem, and a great facility of peeling, very resistant to rain, transport, sourness, opening of the eye, medium susceptibility to detachment. So they can fall off the tree in some situations prematurely. The leaves are mainly unilobed, pentalobed, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Uh, the Sarda variety is originally from the area of Sun Sard, where it gets its name. All right. Well, without a doubt, this is some kind of cold off. And Pond said it's purple, purple skin. Now, for years, if we go back actually to, huh, interesting. I didn't post any photo or I didn't post a video on it. Sarda, no video, huh? Thought I created a video on it. Maybe I have on Figvid some photos. Actually, just put Sarda. May not even find any results. I don't think I've ever sold it. Sarda fig images. Mm-mm. All right. Well, I have some photos somewhere. Let me. Huh. All right. Well, point is, What I'm trying to say is that this fig last year and the year before produced purple figs. But last year, not only did it produce purple figs, it also produced green figs, yellow figs. And I thought to myself, what the heck is going on here? That's not right. Uh, 2 years ago, I didn't see any yellow figs. I only saw figs that looked just like this. I mean, just like that. It's to the point where I was like, oh, it's definitely correct. I don't know where Yatama got his tree from. Um, I don't really know much. I don't even know anyone else in the United States that's growing this variety. So I'm a bit confused, to be totally honest, about where this tree actually comes from. Did Yatama get it from ponds? I don't know. Long story short, um, this fig is now producing yellow figs exclusively. What I did was last year is I in this oh, you know what, I did talk about this fig because we talked about um root pruning. I think it was in this video here. No, this was it's either dividing or division. Hmm. There it is. Pro- fig tree suckers. And this is my Sarda tree right here as it was last year. And what I decided to do was I sawed the tree into thirds. If you look at the suckers down here at the base of this tree, excuse me, there are three of them. And I came in here and removed this branch off here to the right, which I labeled specifically as the Sarda yellow, because the rest of the tree, to my knowledge, was producing purple figs, and this single branch was producing yellow figs. So if that's the case, that is a mutation that has occurred. However, two of the trees that I am getting fruits off of this year are also only producing yellow figs. The third tree that I have hasn't produced anything this year. So I'm really confused. I am so confused. I don't know what's happened. Has the whole tree mutated? I doubt it. uh, is now would one of these branches produce purple figs and white figs on the same branch? That would be interesting because if that would be true, then we have a situation where we could have Coldenon Blanca Negra, which produces purple and white figs or dark and light figs on the same branch. I have not seen that. So I guess more testing is needed. Um, but this could be, in my mind, just instead of Sarda, it could be Coldenon Blanca Negra. Now, every photo I've ever seen of Coldenon Blanca Negra doesn't look anywhere near as good as my Sarda tree. And let's just look at some of the photos here. So here's an example right here of my friend Peter Lee, who has the white fig and dark fig here. Here's an example right here of some of the figs that I've actually had a similar experience to myself, where the pulp isn't actually very red, and the figs are rather flat and more round, and they don't really have much of a neck. See that there? So I'm really confused. Uh, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but that one looks pretty good. You can see how dark red that pulp is. So maybe it's about the source, maybe it's about the climate, whatever the case may be, depending on who's growing it, um, whatever. But I promise you, it's been so far, it's been the best one. Um, you know what? I don't even have, which is a shame. Here we go. You can see the Sarda fig here for yourselves. Pairing other figs. Got in this. There's the inside. That one actually doesn't look as good as some others. Yeah, it looked pretty good. And here is this is Coldenam Gigantina versus left. Doesn't that look insane? Yeah, sorry, that's sorry. So this may change. You know, point is, if you're gonna be growing any of these figs and you want to have the best tasting figs, you need to have one of these Coltedams. So I'm excited to see if that Sarda, maybe it is a mutation, but if it's just Coldenam Blanca Negra, that's fine with me too. I don't know if I get some purple figs and one of the trees is producing purple figs and two of the other trees are only producing yellow figs, then that to me means there was a mutation. Uh, if I start seeing purple figs and white figs, or black figs and white figs, light and dark, on the same tree, on the same branches, to me that's Coldenon Blanca Negra. And I think that's probably what's going on here, but I don't know why they're all so far this year, they're all yellow. Um, Regardless, it's very, very good. And to me, it's better than really any, I would say any of the Coldenons I've eaten ever. So that's saying something. It is a notch higher because of that acidity, and I even like the texture slightly more. Okay, so now we got to move on to some of the best tasting figs for humid climates. Now, the Coldenams are up there, no doubt, but you have to also consider the Black Madeira And Black Madeira for me in this climate is about which one ripens at the highest quality the most consistently. And to get that Black Madeira flavor, there's really only two figs I think that fit that description and have the flavor. So they do well in humid climates and they have the same flavor. To me, the number one fig is Colonel Littman's Black Cross. Here's a video I did last year on it, but I've had these off of this tree this season that were unreal. And basically, by the way, drying on the tree. Here we go. Here's one of them. You can see how sort of dried it is, and that that's pretty darn special. So you're basically getting, this has always been the problems with me with these Black Madeira figs here. They just split a lot. They take a while to ripen. They don't dry on the tree. The Colonel Lippmann's Black Cross is just smaller on average, more rain resistant, more split resistant. The eye is basically closed. They almost never crack. That's another huge detail. And they give you the same eating experience. It's an unbelievable fig. Unbelievable. People are sleeping on it, that's for sure. Shout out to Strudel Dog, my friend Phil in Georgia, who really was the one who realized how amazing this fig was. Well, so I guess Phil's contributed to this list pretty mightily too. This is unbelievable. Now, there is also the second fig, I would say, if you want that flavor, is the Hibernacka figs. And we just talked about them in the latest video I published. Here it is. And you definitely need to learn about this. If you haven't already, it is unbelievable. I have so many Hibernacka figs that have ripened here. I think that's White Madeira number one. By the way, this is Teramo right here. You're gonna tell me that's not amazing? It's just unreal. They all look like that. So here's some of the first Hibernacas I was getting this season. They're just to die for. Here's another one. That's the Littman's fig we just looked at. Shout out to Just Fruits and Exotics too. Um, Here's actually another fig I want to talk about, DN Amoros. Um, and if you go to there's quite a few of these Hibernacas that Chituia, Hibernacus one. There's quite a few. I describe them if you just type in synonym, you'll see a list of synonyms for it. There's 10 of them. And then if you also go to the Hibernica post that I've written about, you can read more about it. And I actually said many years ago it was the Black Madeira killer. That was my claim, a bold claim. I think that's true, based on what we're saying right now. Having said that, I think Colonel Lippmann's Black Cross is a notch higher And by the way, they don't all match. You know, their flavor profiles are not exactly the same. Colonel Lippmann's doesn't taste exactly the same as Black Madeira. Black Madeira doesn't taste exactly the same as Hyvernenka. So, you know, there's definitely some little differences and things here and there. You're not going to always get the same experience, but these Hyvernenka figs are unreal. Definitely would recommend growing at least one of them. So far, De La Senora Hibernenca has been the best tasting of them. As I said, there's many names for it, and for whatever reason, um, De La Senora Hibernenca, like Sarda, has slightly more acidity and slightly better berry flavor. Then I would say um, Calderona is the next one. So Calderona, I think, is a quite a notch lower than these others, Hibernenca and uh, I also think, by the way, it is it's similar enough because the shape is different. It's got a better neck to it. It hangs better. The figs don't split as often. They don't crack as often. The rain resistance is, I'd say, about the same of the skin, maybe. But they just generally hold up better in this climate. But it is a notch lower than Littman's and Hibernenka for my money. And that includes Bass's favorite fig, which I believe is a synonym. If Bass, if that's not true, Bass, let me know. Okay. Uh, Man, sorry guys, we're really struggling here. I'm trying my best. Okay. Next up, we're going to talk about some new additions and figs that I really want to talk about. Um, let's talk about Dean Amorous because we were just there. I got a 5-minute video that's going to come out. We talked about it in the Hibernenka video recently, but this will come out on Facebook or and Instagram, and we'll talk about the comparison and the differences of these. Look how similar they look. I mean, obviously the shape is different. This is a Hibernenka right here, this really flat one, but they're not always flat like this. They're very variable in shape. Either they're flat or more teardrop. But these Dianamoros figs are definitely different. And what's interesting about them is they taste just like Hardy Chicago. If I was blindfolded, I don't think I would know the difference, which is really weird. Skin is different. The skin can be nice and leathery, which is great. So I think the texture is better. I think the eating experience is better than Hardy Chicago, but it is very similar. And it's almost like maybe in between Smith and Hardy Chicago. Underripe, it has some of that resinous flavor. That's actually not bad. So underripe, it actually tastes good. And the hang time is really short. So even though it's a late fig, it's very productive. This is an insanely productive tree. The figs are about the right size. They're the right shape. They do crack, as you can see, so they're not impervious to the rain. Uh, but I would argue they do pretty good in the rain. But the hang time is very short, and you can even pick them under ripe. So this is a fig that is going to be in the top figs that you can grow in humid places. You just type in humid, and it comes up here, and you can see the list that we're growing. So we're adding Deanna Amaros to this list coming up. Still have to change the article. Uh, Teramo is going to be on this list. We're going to change things about Col de Noms, as we talked about. Another addition to this list is Comuna Small Black. Man, that is disgusting. I'm sorry, guys. Hold on one second. If you're just tuning in now, I'm sick, and that's why we're doing this in the middle of the day. And I just thank you all for bearing with me here. Been it's been really difficult doing this. So I probably shouldn't have done it, but I needed to get something done today. I feel rather unproductive if I just did nothing. Okay. So let's see here. Um Communa Small Black. Now, we do have a video on this that I never released to the public because I didn't want to hype it up too much. But this is it right here. It only had, oh, it does have 127 views. So I did, huh, I must have released this somewhere. I must have talked somewhere. Yeah, okay. So in 2022, I said, yeah, this was one of the best new figs. Okay, this image here is wrong, but this is the video from that. And we got to taste quite a few of them this year. They dry super well on the tree. Shout out to my friend Bill, who gave me this tree and was able to procure this from John Verdict at Figs for Fun. Out that this fig comes from, it's a really muddled history, but it was a lot of, I had to talk to a lot of different people that um, have been really into figs in the past to figure out exactly where this figs come from. Because if you look at John Verdict's, I'm not even sure if this is going to work anymore. Oh, it does. And you go to the small commune of black, small green red. Okay, it's called commune of small black. Here it is. Cuttings came from Italy and may have been mislabeled as it's clearly not a dark fig. You can see it here. So my friend Bill somehow got cuttings of this. Good on him. And realized how amazing this fig was. Turns out this fig comes from Gene Hosey's collection, and Gene Hosey had contacts with a Italian grower named Sergio Carlini, and Sergio had gotten cuttings from a mountain, a mountainous region. Um, let's see here. Ugh, well, that's not good. Val Monica. All right, so this is Val Camonica, which is basically take off the terrain. Wow, this is crazy. Anyway, this is a valley essentially in northern Italy. You can see a whole bunch of towns along here that goes upwards from Lake Ezio. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I think that's the name of the lake. I guess we can zoom in here. Yeah, Lago di Ezio. So anyway, this fig comes from this region, and what I know about this region because I was there last year. I was in actually this mountain range here doing hiking, and I was in Riva del Garda a lot, and we were on Lake Garda. This is a perfect climate for figs. That translates well to our climate here in humid places because in this part of Italy, it rains in the fall. So any fig that over time, it's really just over time adapted to the rain, and they become really good in terms of the rain resistance. So um, the real name for this fig, it turns out to be Valcamonica. I think it's long green or small green. Um, there's also a Valcamonica um, small black and large black. So that's where the naming mix up is. It's not Comuna, although Comuna is, if you type in Comuna, it kind of means Camonica. So it was a lot of digging to find this out, but this comes from one of these towns. These figs come from one of these towns. I don't have the other two. It'd be cool to try the other two because the green one's so amazing, but it dries on the tree very quickly. And that's the point. It's one of the best. As it dries further and further, it tastes better and better and better. It's got a really great flavor to it, but only if you can let it dry on the tree. So if you're going to grow this at some point, which you're probably pretty far away from getting some cuttings out to people, that's kind of what you have to do. But it's going to be one of them figs that ripens at the highest quality, the most consistently, you know, the most often. Okay. Now, I did want to talk about Pastiliere because a lot of people still have a lot of questions on Pastiliere. We will definitely we're definitely going to be releasing more content on Pastiliere. I have a few videos that will come out on Facebook and Instagram on that. But basically, what it did this year, this is my Pastiliere tree. And for many years, people had claimed that this was just going to drop every year. And then by year three, it would finally stop dropping. And it's just kind of a mess. A lot of misinformation, weird takes. And to me, it turns out that this fig needs more water than other varieties. It is unforgiving. Think about it like this. It's unforgiving to periods of dry soil. When the soil is dry, every fig has a little bit of a different thing that it does. Every variety. Some varieties will drop their leaves and actually hold on to their fruits. Other varieties will drop their fruits like this. Other varieties will hold on to everything for dear life. Um, Other varieties will have their fruits start to like shrivel. Not only do the leaves droop and become soft, but the fruits do as well. And then once they get watered again, they perk right back up and the fruits become hard again. Sometimes these fruits, when they become hard again, they they take damage. And when they take damage, they don't ripen properly, even if they do ripen. But varieties like Saint Martin, Pastiliere, Celeste, Fane is another one I discovered. Maybe even Tolosa. There's a few. I could probably put together a list of 10 of them that, this fig that doesn't have a name, Aaron's unknown. So yeah, that's really the problem with it. It's not about age. The age obviously helps it uptake water, the stronger the root system is. Um, I had thought for years it was about sunlight, but it's not about sunlight either. I think sunlight can help if you can open the canopy up. That's always a good thing. But I do think if the soil really ever dries out, a lot of my Celeste figs this year dropped their fruits because we had a couple, we had like two major events where the irrigation just didn't work, and it's just my fault. I wasn't there to be there to observe it. Um, Everything ended up being fine, but this is what happens. You can end up having Pastiliere trees. I had two of them, my Syrah version and my Porquerolles version, which is from a conservatory in France. They both held on to every single fruit last year, ripened an incredible crop. And then this year, because of this lack of water that happened to them, they dropped all their fruits. So how is it that one year they hold on to their fruits and the next year they don't? It's that simple. It's just water. So it's the same thing with the rain tree version. Now, are there differences between the versions in terms of anything else? I don't think so far. I think they're all relatively the same. I think the Pastiliere version or the rain tree version, excuse me, is just as good as the others. Although, as you can see from this color, my rain tree version is producing figs that are unbelievable. They taste unbelievable. Here's some from last year. This is from either the tree or the Porkerolles tree. Pretty good color right there, actually. But none of them are really that dark red. They usually were, and I attribute that probably to just maturity, getting established a bit more. So actually, that's a pretty good color, but that color isn't this, and they didn't taste as good as this. So I don't know if that's going to remain true. Whatever the case may be, it's an incredible fig. And so I think there's a real argument to be made that this has got to be the best tasting early to ripen fig. And I mean like first of the year to ripen. Now, Teramo's up there in terms of first of the year. I think Campanile doesn't ripen first of the year. It's like a little bit after that. It's so close though that you might as well consider it first of the year. But I think I had about seven or eight varieties start ripening figs pretty much at the same time, and that was the first of the year. Um, so August 1st is generally when I get my first main crop figs to ripen. So what other varieties at that point? Teramo, you could throw in Campanile, Ronde Bordeaux. So I'm really excited to see how. Oh, you know what else really is in that category too, which I don't really know when it ripens exactly, but it should ripen very early. It's called Castel Tricino. So I'm really excited for that fig. We talked a little bit about it in the past. But there's at least, if you want to talk about that category, if that's something you're looking for, is what are the best tasting super early to ripen figs? Castle Tricino is definitely one of them, which is Mario's number 48. I have this one planted, a couple of them planted in the ground. We're struggling here, unfortunately. I don't know when Salame ripens, but to me, Salame and Verdolino are also incredible, and they should ripen first of the year. What am I looking for here, guys? Yeah, Castle Tricino. This video doesn't do it justice, actually. It's really in the thumbnail because this video I had harvested, I remember, way late or way too early. But this thumbnail, and that figured so good. So yeah, that's I think what I wanted to mention about Pastiliere. There's also a couple others we should mention. There's a fig called Salato that really impressed me in the past. And I finally got a tree that's healthy and established. I planted a few of them in the ground after I realized in 2021 how good it was. This is a picture of it right here. It ripens late, but the trees that I planted in the ground, been really slow to get established. It's a bit upsetting. But I now finally have a really healthy tree of it. It should continue ripening some fruits. It is late, but the shape is amazing. Um, the taste is incredible. Here's actually a review we did of it here. This was 2 years ago, I guess 2022. But I should have a short of this that I haven't published yet. Nah, I haven't edited the video yet. So that to me is an amazing fig. Maybe I can find a photo of it. Salato. Here it is. Here's the short. So really nice shape to it. I mean, it almost looks like a Moro de Caneva from the outside, just lighter skin. Look at that. That's just amazing, you know? Really, really, really nice fig. It's got a fig on every single node. Promise you the flavor is better than most figs. I was really impressed with this. Let's see the inside though. Come on. So even that one was even like a slightly underripe. All right. So that's that one. Then there's also Figo Roxo. Figo Roxo really impressed me. Um, I had thought this was going to be a Hibernenka fig going into eating it. Uh, this I think is Pelle de Boo. Yeah, so this is Pelle de Boo. We're gonna skip Roxo for a second. This is very, very good. And if you look at Pons's book, this comes from Pons. We'll have to go back to his website again. I had heard this ripened really quickly on the tree. In these photos, it doesn't look like much. It really doesn't look like much. Um, but I was so shocked at how good this fig actually tasted. There's almost no cracking. The shape is good, closed eye, and apparently, according to Pons, it ripens quickly. So if that's true, it's also not that late. It's the middle of August, so that would be like a mid-season variety. I was again really, really impressed with this, and the inside looked way better than I had thought it was going to, and it tasted way better than I thought it was. Let me read. Let me find it in the book. Just read to you guys a little bit about it. 45. Okay. If you don't have Pons' book, Fig Trees of the Balearic Islands, just definitely recommend getting it. It's just hard to find it in English. His website will do if you can't find it in English, because you can actually take the text from here and you can put it in Google Translate. You just hit Control U and then you scroll down. You would copy this, Google Translate, the tech language, and this will give you what's written. Um, yeah, so pretty cool little tip there. Although the text isn't going to be as good as the book, the translation isn't going to be as good as the book. It says here, well, actually, let's see here what's written in his book versus. fig tree is located in Sun New Luc Major, and the mother fig tree is cultivated in Minor by property of Joseph something something. So actually, it says by instead of property. It's pretty close. The tree has medium development, very dense foliage with very vigorous short annual growth. A deformed canopy. Uh, Frown is another word for canopy. Is easy to distinguish because of the coloration of the crop which ripens on the tree. Where it stands out due to the fact that the bottom half of the fig turns red. Besides this, it has a double harvest, although the first grade of a crop is rather scarce, and the second fig crop is more prolific with a medium harvest and high productive yield. So medium harvest period, excuse me. Brabas are pyriform, figs are pyriform, rather earthy, blurred color. Can definitely agree with that. Distinguishable for having a variable stem, which can extend considerably. That's very, very good. Symmetrical in shape, variable in dimension, have a considerable number of coupled fruits. The skin is thin, but of a rough texture, very hairy, easily visible to the naked eye. The pulp is brown and not very sweet, with a soft consistency and large quantity of small acnes. Very difficult of abscission from the stem. It says they're very susceptible to transport and to sourness, but they are resistant to rain and to opening of the eye. The figs ripen quickly, but they are difficult to detach from the tree, which is very, very, very important. That last little sentence there. Hmm. Figs ripen quickly. So, I don't know. Um, I don't believe that sentence, that phrase has ever been mentioned in Ponza's book anywhere else. The figs ripen quickly. I looked for it. If it's in there in some other fig variety, let me know. But yeah, I decided I have to get it. I got it. We're gonna plant one in the ground, and I want more trees of it. Truthfully, I was really impressed as well that it produces some kind of breva. If it's gonna produce a breva, that's a really nice extra crop that I had totally disregarded in the past, and so I'm pretty excited to grow a lot of different breva producers. Sorry, guys, I'm really struggling here. Okay, um, let's see here. Deauville, Black Tuscan Deauville, and Figo Roxo. We only have a couple more. I think, by the way, this tastes a lot better than he described in his book, but he's pretty harsh with the flavor descriptions. I think it's definitely well above average, a well above average tasting fig. Um, where is Roxo here? It's up here somewhere. Be right here, actually. We did forget to mention one thing I did want to discuss, but it is what it is, I guess. The Adriatic figs, um, White Madeira number one. It, it just it just is the best Adriatic fig. I had doubted it for years. I was like, there's just no way number one is going to be any good or as good as people say. I mean, the name was just so ridiculous. Really, I don't know where it is. We have a very long video on white Madeira, um, talking about exactly this. That's coming out on Facebook and Instagram. But regardless, this fig here, white Madeira number one, is man, this was really good. And you can see it on the outside there, the skin, how it is leathery. It has just this better texture to it than all the other Adriatics. I think Inconetana is similar in terms of it can get that leatheriness. And so is Paradiso Bronze VS. I think Paradiso Bronze VS is unbelievably it's just so underrated. It makes me a little bit sick. So if you want to get an Adriatic fig and you like these Adriatic figs, try that one. I think you will be pleasantly surprised. I had some incredible figs off of that last year. This year, not so much, but I have really high hopes for it. Uh, if you put a gun to my head, I would actually say that White Madeira number one and Paradiso Bronze VS are almost a match. But I did have some White Madeira number one figs that I this year towards the later part of the season that I'm like, you know what? It's just so darn good, and I don't think I've quite had an Adriatic fig as good as that. So we did mention that the Adriatic figs are some of the best figs, and we talked about Green Michurinska earlier in this live stream. White Madeira number one is tops for me in terms of flavor. All the Adriatic figs I think are very good, especially if planted in the ground. And then you might even just say that Green Michurinska is just thrown in there or even slightly below those. Uh, Green Michurinska is just so good. It's almost like we are splitting hairs at that point, you know. But let's just leave it at White Madeira number one to me is the best tasting so far. And oddly enough, I didn't really think this for years, but the Verdino del Nord figs, so Verdino of the North, there's the Tatiana version, which is just another name for Verdino or Adriatic. The Verdino del Nord from Vladimir Rocco, or Figoin, or Zigolino, or Figolino, or Verdal from Ibiza. These are all Verdino of the North, basically. And they are basically the Adriatic fig that you see here in front of you, but from northern Italy. And they are much better in rainy climates. So, just a little bit of an alternative there. They ripen at different periods. They also produce a breva. But to me, the eating experience is very similar to the Adriatic figs. They're just smaller and better in these rainy climates. So one day it will be interesting, I think, to compare in-ground tree to in-ground tree, Green Michurinska versus Verdino del Nord. So because the Adriatic figs are so good, I think you have to have at least a fig like, let's say, JH Adriatic, just your standard Adriatic fig. Green Michurinska because it ripens so early, it produces Breva. White Madeira number one because it's just so incredible, and also Verdino del Nord. I think all four of those are valid. There may even be more. I think, that's just why people are like, well, Ross, if you could only grow one fig variety, what would it be? I mean, my goodness, it's so hard even just to choose one between those four that I mentioned. And who knows, maybe one will show up. Prosciutto in the past had produced a ton of Breva for me. If that's going to continue, well, that's going to be the best Breva producer of the bunch, maybe even more than Green Michurinska has. So I think, man, there's just these figs are just so good that it's like you should have multiples of them. And there's obviously versions of them that are slightly better for rain, slightly earlier to ripen, and will produce breva at higher quantities. And that pretty much guarantees everybody in the country can grow one of these with a high degree of success and enjoy that eating experience. You can't say that about other varieties that have this high eating experience, like the Golden Ops, like Black Madeira. Okay. So that's what we're getting at. Now here's Roxo. What do we want to say about this? This I thought was a Hiberneka fig. We will have a short coming out on this again on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. But it's not a Hiberneka because you can see the fig, even though this looks like a similar shape, it's actually smaller in size, almost like a DN Amoros that we looked at earlier. But there's no cracking on the skin. The coloration's rather similar. Oddly, the leaf pollen is very similar. The unripe figs on the tree are very similar. I was like dumbfounded when I ate this, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's incredible!" Number one, and it's very different than any other fig. I actually think this may have been the second best tasting fig I ate all year. There are so many contenders for that. It's unreal. Um, because this has acidity. It has an incredibly dense texture to it. The skin is not that doesn't have that leatheriness that we like, but the berry flavor was off the charts. The acidity, all that. I mean, it was really, really, really good. I only wish I had more of it, and my plan is to get more cuttings of it, more trees of it. Have one that's grafted, and that's it. I wish I had an ungrafted tree on its own roots, I should say, that I could plant right in the ground in the spring, but I don't. So yeah, that one also ripens late. So it's weird how these late figs all taste rather good. What's with that? That's certainly something. I don't know how many of you guys have considered. I don't know too many late figs that don't taste good. I'm trying to think about it. Why is that? That's just so weird, isn't it? Is it have something to do with just the fact that the tree is like gathering more carbohydrates before the fruits form, or they're gathering more carbohydrates to put into the fruits by the time they ripen? Man, I don't know. It's so interesting. Of course, there are some varieties, like we mentioned, Pastiliere and um, Teramo, Castle Tricino, Ronde Bordeaux, that taste really good, even though they ripen like very early in the season. I think what I'm going to try to do this year, guys, is I'm going to try to rank the figs. It's almost a little bit unfair, but to try to rank them in terms of their eating experience, I think what's just slightly better is how I've done it in this video and in this live stream is we just categorize it. So for Black Madeira flavor in humid climates, these are the figs. Here's the Adriatic figs. Here's the Coldenoms. Here's the Hibernenkas. You know, at some point in the future, I would like to do that. You just rank them all the best I can, but I know that's going to be so subjective and it's going to change. So it's going to be a long time before I get that really solidified. And I should do a blind tasting. And the other problem is that they don't all ripen at the same time. So the blind tasting that we did was great, but it didn't. We didn't have many of the late figs in there to actually compare to the early ripening ones. Um, all right, so we have two more figs. Let's try to get through this a little bit quicker here, guys. Sorry. Um, okay, so here we have Deauville. This is Black Tuscan Deauville. I ate this one today, I think it was. Pretty darn impressed. Actually, this was yesterday. This was really, really, really impressive. So, yeah, we have a video that did come out. This is another late fig. Doesn't really have the acidity, sweet texture to it. Um, a weird name for this fig, that's for sure. Um, this comes from somewhere in Italy, and to me, it's very, very good. So this could be something to look out for. You can see there's no cracks on it. It's got a closed eye for the most part. Doesn't split. They seem to do pretty good in the rain, and the hang time is reasonable. And that these are really important traits for late figs. You know, when you think about late figs here, I really have to be very particular about the ones I grow. You know, I'd love to grow Cosme Magno and Delson Wami Gran, and you know, there's quite a few in the past that Black Madeira, Italian 258. There's quite a few in the past that I have, you know, just stopped growing because they just, yeah, they didn't do well at this point of the season. So, um, you know, it's hard to get good figs in October, in the Philadelphia area, and so far it's been a great year. It's probably been the best year I've been a part of, but these are really important traits that you want to look for. I don't really have much else to say about it. You know, it's funny. You gotta. I don't really have anything about it that I would say is like unique in some way. It's just like another fig that ripens late, checks a lot of boxes, and that's to me pretty important. Now, I want to talk about one more fig because this has been slept on, this fig, for way too long, and it just bothers me a little bit. Uh, we had a full crop of this tree this year that ripened to utter perfection, much every time. Now we did have amazing weather. This is White Triana. I don't understand what the hesitation is for this fig. The hang time somehow, as I discussed a little bit earlier in this live stream, it somehow has been shortened quite a bit since I have planted it in the ground. And you can see it's right up against the house. Is that affecting it? The heat that the house gives off, is that somehow ripening the figs faster? I don't know. That's something to consider. I'm going to remain open-minded to that as a possibility. But these figs are ripening to perfection in about an average amount of time. It's not certainly not quick, but it's certainly not as long as I thought. Now, the perfection of this is one of the best textured figs you can eat. Here's another video. Every one of these, I picked this whole bowl of figs and I thought, holy crap, this is another way Triana. I have to stop what I'm doing and take a video of this. Like that's how good these are. People don't understand. Um, Now the berry flavor is not super intense. People are gonna fight me on that. If you don't want to grow a fig doesn't have a super intense berry flavor, okay, be my guest. But the texture in this is unreal. It's like a mid-season Coldedom. So for that reason, I think you have to grow it. It does produce a nice breva. Um, and I think that's all I really want to say about it. It's just it ripened perfect this year. Now, I can't really put it on my list, I think, just yet, because even though it was perfect, we didn't really have any rain. And so I want to see how it does in the rain on an in-ground tree. The hang time is much shorter than I thought, and that's definitely giving it a little bit of a boost, but the hang time's not short enough to where we can just disregard, problems with rain. So if it's going to really struggle with rain, I'm going to have to pick it early. If I pick it early, it's not going to have the texture that it deserves. Another fig that's similar to this is unknown blackberry. We just have a bunch of these coming out. bunch of these videos on this fig because every time I ate it, I was really impressed with it. But it's very similar to White Triana and A Triano and Mythica and all those other ones. Um, Smaller, the tree is very productive, definitely different, and actually even a slight improvement to White Triana. I'm quite excited for this one to plant this one in the ground and see what it does because we might get something slightly better. Um, the way you can tell that all these types are ripe, Atriano. I ate some Atriano this year. I ate some Emerald Strawberry this year. Yeah, I ate some Mashinka Unknown, which these are all similar types to each other with almost no differences, honestly. I wonder if Atriano is going to be at some point as good as White Triana is, because I think White Triana has a better berry flavor, but I'm growing Atriano again to reconfirm that. But for me, I think Unknown Blackberry actually sort of tastes like a blackberry, and you can almost kind of see the same thing in Wei Triana. It's almost like a melon slash blackberry or light blueberry flavor with no acidity. So they're very sweet, sticky, and really, really jammy pulps. The way you know that they're ripe is by the skin. So the skin is going to give you um, oddly the way you know when to pick them. Normally, I would say you have to know by the neck, the softness of the neck, but I'm actually feeling the body. You can feel the body, and there's like this weird way to know with the skin. All right, let me see if you guys had put any questions in the. There we go. We got a lot of comments. Holy crap, guys, that's awesome. It's a long thing though, isn't it? That we've been doing this. Um, all right, let me see here if I can bring this out somehow. Pop out chat. Here we go. Okay. Well, guys, let's answer these questions now. This is all. It's really all I got here for this talk. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we're gonna get to these last this Q&A section. If you have questions, put them in the chat. I'll try to answer them all, and then you guys can go back. If even if you didn't you have time to sit here and watch this right now, you can always go back to the chat. It'll replay, and we'll talk about it. So anyway, all right. So Eric's here. I know it's not the greatest bit. We had one on my grandfather's farm when I was a kid in Edinburgh, and I always remember that tree from my childhood. Would love to get one. I wonder if Steve is talking about Celeste. Yeah, I need to go fund me for Kleenex, that's for sure. I'm using paper towels, literally paper towels, because what I need to do is take my vitamins, supplements, and stuff. I could probably use an antihistamine right now. But I have so much of this stuff coming out that Kleenex is not enough. These are so wet that I would use a million tissues. Okay. Fig gelato sounds great. Yeah. I hear fig leaf ice cream is really good. Fig leaf ice cream. Yeah. I'm gonna try to make it actually. We have some dried fig leaves right here. I'm hoping to put out a video on this soon. I don't know. We'll see. I was hoping to make pesto out of the leaves when they're fresh. You just boil them. But it's, in all honesty, the pesto wasn't any good, and I don't know how people eat it. You can obviously put olive oil and garlic and all kinds of stuff in there to make it taste better. But it's just like if you could have basil or any other herb and make pesto out of it, even like a carrot tops for pesto, the leaves or uh, That would to me would be better than fig leaves. If you had no other thing, all right, I could see that. If you had a ton of fig trees and no other herbs, okay. Okay, excuse me, guys. Oh man. All right. So Zubair said my JH Adriatic doesn't intend to ripen this year. Been on the plant for like 3 months now. That's crazy. I don't know. Is your weather really cold? Thank you, Eric. Here's that figs are becoming very popular now in the US. Yeah, I think so. A lot of growers compared to just 10 years ago. This is good. Yeah, I think there's a lot more growers growing them and hobbyists. People are realizing how good they are. There's still a lot of consumers that have no idea what a ripe fig is like. Yeah. Yeah. So some of you guys are putting comments in here. I'm not really sure what they're in reference to. It's a shame. Um, but if there are any questions in here, I'm going to try to my best. Yeah, the people in California are definitely spoiled with quality. Let's see here. Yeah, it's good that you guys are interested in the in capper figs and the fig wasp because a lot of people think that all figs have fig wasp in them and that they're dead and there's all these problems and they're actually being turned off by them because of some stupid 30-second videos that they watch on Instagram. For some reason, they think that's gospel. Uh, Eric said it's hard to compare Pennsylvania to Arizona. Try to subtract a couple months from what Ross says. Yeah, I mean, if I'm getting my first Brebas July 1st, first main crop by August 1st, you may even be getting them by like your first main crop 3 months earlier. Like you said, you may get them by May 1st. And then the other problem is if you're getting all that heat so soon, a lot of your fig varieties may even ripen roughly all around the same time. I mean, you may get them just like the late varieties may not even be that much later than the early ones. Um, Whereas here, the mid-season varieties start August 15th, and the late ones start August 1st, and then the very late ones start September. What did I say? August 15th, then September 1st, then September 15th. Excuse me. Yo, I hope you enjoy Azores Dark. To me, it's still better than any of the Hardy Chicagos. We have to talk about this at some point. There is a lot of Hardy Chicagos. I'll definitely put this in the blog post when I update it, but there's a lot of really good ones, and Savanac Noir really impressed me this year. San Donato de Nania is very good. There's an unknown one that I have that's very good. Novella is exceptional. Um, I actually got to try St. Rita this year. I thought that was pretty darn good. Um, I hear Crows is very good. Cond is very good as well. Um, there's quite a few that I would say are in this upper tier, but I don't think I've had a Hardy Chicago yet that was better than some of the Azores dark figs I've eaten. So I still think it's the best one, um, for what it's worth. So I don't get you northern growers. You can grow cherries and all those amazing American persimmons. I ditch figs for some amazing varieties of cherries. You can't grow cherries down in the south. I guess they need some chill hours, but the dry climates, hot and dry places are like the best climates for cherries. Cherries actually have problems here uh, in this part of the world because they get a lot of plum curculio, they get a lot of brown rot, and they also, if they don't have either of those two problems, then you got to worry about birds and squirrels. So it's really hard getting cherries to ripen at a high quality. American persimmons, I got a ton of them. So um, figs can ripen at high qualities here too. This year it was unbelievable. So I don't think I actually think figs are more reliable here than cherries. I think many fruits are more reliable than cherries. In the mid-Atlantic, in the Northeast, it's really difficult growing stone fruits. Yeah, there's got to be some low chill cherries, right? Disease pressures, okay. Hey Danny, that's that's rough, man. Yeah, it's pretty hard growing figs in this super hot desert, isn't it? Oh, I'm glad you like the blind tasting. That's nice. We actually enjoyed filming it a lot. A lot of people said that they enjoyed it, and we genuinely really enjoyed filming it. Your wife said no to 30 varieties. Yeah, Troy, I think Delson Wamigran can definitely do great in a greenhouse. I wish I could have it outside and it would do great. Um, hmm. It's a great tasting fig too. Do you know what the hang time is on that one? Because it seems like it takes a long time to ripen, especially late in the season. It's cool that you guys are all in contact with the fig hunter. That's really nice. David's doing some incredible work. Uh, you can freeze whole figs. I have a bunch frozen in my freezer, and my friend Chris raves about them when you freeze them. So I actually got to try one that he harvested last year, and it was actually still really good. Fig hunter down under. There's a fig hunter in Australia, huh? That's cool. Who's that person? I don't have any persistent capper figs for sale. Uh, there is the UC Davis one. I have a couple trees of it. Next year they'll produce more pollen for me. They did produce a bunch of pollen this year, but I didn't. What ended up happening was the by the time I was able to collect the pollen, the the figs were so far developed that if I were to hand pollinate them, excuse me, it would just be too late. You have to pollinate the figs in a certain stage, really in that second, uh, first or second stage, probably. Um, if they get too far along, it doesn't take, uh, from my experience. Yeah, fig leaf ice cream is great. If you guys have any other ideas of recipes or things like that, I'd love to read about it. Send it to me. Ways that you eat them. I experimented with quite a bit different ways here. Um, so I'm always looking for recipes and stuff. And I was gonna sell them this year. I was gonna sell the figs to restaurants, but I didn't know what to tell them because they're gonna ask me. They're gonna say, "Well, these are great, but what do we do with them?" And I would say, "Oh, I just eat them fresh." You know. So um, if I just eat them fresh, that they're not gonna necessarily put that in their restaurant. I think maybe you could maybe just serve a fresh fig to somebody in a restaurant if it's a great fig. That would be awesome. Um, I don't really like cooking down figs. I haven't really had any success cooking them down, unless you make them in the jam. You could put them in the oven and broil them for a very short period of time, and that can change them and make them a little bit better in certain figs, certain varieties, certain, I guess if you pick them underripe, but so far I actually don't enjoy cooking them at all. I think they're just the way they are is perfect, fresh. But there's got to be something. I mean, we put them on cakes and pastries and things, and that's a great way to make use of them. But it's so hard to beat them fresh. Sandy, the you don't need the spreadsheet for the figs for humid climates because it's all right here. It's in this article. You just type in humid and you get the spreadsheet here in this. This is it, but it's written out and actually explains things much better. And I continually update that. Steve, appreciate you joining here. You're getting a second crop of JH Adriatic. That's awesome. Yeah, the figs from the grocery stores are not good. So, fig grower from Jersey, they're just forming in September. I leave them on the tree. I don't remove any of the figs unless I just plant a tree in the ground and it's trying to get established because those figs remove energy from the tree. Um, you got to find a way to get your figs to form sooner in the year, and that's usually just going to come down to protecting them. If you can protect them in the ground for one season, you'll have a lot earlier to ripen figs. But you have to keep all the branches intact. You can't really prune them unless you do the right kind of pruning. You can do thinning cuts, not heading cuts. Huh. What's up, James? Is Mordecai Evans still basically the best Hardy Chicago? Well, it's not a Hardy Chicago, but I think it is better than Hardy Chicago in almost every way. It might just be Hardy Chicago might be hardier, but in every other way, Moro de Caneva is better. Literally, in every other way. Uh, Hardy Chicago, man, is definitely lower on the list for me in terms of figs nowadays. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's accurate. Sandy said, I have a question. Some of my figs in October started ripening, but somehow part of the fig texture gets hard. You know why? Yeah, I think what's happened there, as I've described in the live stream actually, is that when the figs are underwatered, the trees are underwatered, they'll droop, and then the figs will also droop and become soft. And then when you water them back in, they'll perk back up. But the figs themselves take damage, and a quarter of the fig or a portion of the fig won't ripen properly, and the whole fig itself won't taste the way that it should. I would guarantee, I would probably, I mean, you should send me a picture, Sandy, and I can tell you for sure, but that's usually the case. Uh, no, in Northern California, it's always warm and then cold autumn and winter, so stone fruits wake up bloom. Yeah, there's always late frost damage for sure. I'm sure the fig, dude, David Burke's a really nice person, so I'm surprised that you said that. He's one of the nicest guys I ever met, actually. He's almost too nice. Nice. Hell yeah. Planting a fig forest, that's awesome. I don't need any seedlings unless you think unless you have pictures of the fruits. I'm always down to see pictures of new figs. If you have a new fig variety that you found, I would love to see pictures of it. But I don't need any seedling figs. There's not many of them so far proven to be any good here. And I'm sure there will be one. But so far I have not really had any success with any of the seedlings from California. The best figs in the world that are going to do well here are going to be from France and northern Italy, and that's it. They might be from other European countries around the Mediterranean, but um, if you look at all the varieties on my list in that link, they they're all from that part of the world. There's not a single one that's I think it's from my recollection. That's from another place. Yeah, I need to go to California. I would like to go to UC Davis, taste all the figs. I'd like to go to Harvey's place, or that's probably not going to be a possibility very soon. Um, Considering he's trying to sell the place. Um, and Imagine that you live where you live with humidity and limited space and like seven spots for fig trees. Which one would be your choice? Yeah, well, uh, are you in the same part of the world, Sandy? So like, do you have a long enough season? Is your season as long as mine, is what I'm trying to say. If you live where I live, it says if you live where you live. I would definitely plant this current moment, Campaniere, Teramo. I can't even believe I keep saying Teramo. It's crazy. Um, Caneva, Green Michurinska, uh, Black Celeste, Verdino del Nord, and if you can't plant Smith in the ground because it's just too cold probably. So you can't put Smith in there. And then I would grow uh I might actually grow one of the cold noms and an Adriatic. And man, that's just so tough. It's just so darn tough to have only seven figs. Seven figs? Are you crazy? Yeah, I guess that's it. I don't know. Hibernica might be hard to ripen, and the Coldenams might be hard to ripen, but you could definitely get um, a bunch of the Adriatics to ripen. Ew, oh, jeez. Jeez Louise. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, Troy. It takes so long that I just can't justify it if I wasn't growing it under plastic. By the way, man, you've been doing really good stuff over there on your channel. If anyone wants some more fig content, Troy in the chat has a great channel, and he is really into this. And yeah, I'm just really happy to see you getting to where you got, man. It's awesome. And you're harvesting so many figs, man. It's such an early date. It's awesome. That's like the best part. And I know you're selling them, aren't you now? The figs themselves. But man, having them under that greenhouse, just get a perfect fig almost every time. Hopefully I'll be there soon in the next 3 years, I hope. All right, so you asked me, sorry, man, your name is confusing there. Be what said, what are some tips to structure a home garden orchard so it can be organized as a legit business? Oh, it's a good question, man. I only have 180 frost-free days. Where do I get all my varieties? From other people like myself who are into this. Type in Troy Pretty in YouTube. Let me just find his channel and I will I'll put it in the chat. Oh my God, Troy, what are you doing in this one? That's an interesting thumbnail. Hey, from Italy, what's going on? I love Italy, man. I just want to move there. I don't even want to live here. I'm gonna be honest with you. If I could live in northern Italy, Tuscany, oh my God, I would in a heartbeat. It's just too many family and friends that are keeping me here. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up here, guys. We got a couple more questions and then that's it. So I don't know anything about coffee grounds, to be honest with you. Yeah, Border Barraquer I hear is very good. So, someone nearby, I think his name is Joe. Sorry if I'm getting the name wrong. But I believe Joe, it's his favorite fig around here. I had grown it and I didn't really like it that much. And I think that was partly because it was a grafted tree and the rootstock wasn't very healthy. So getting a male fig and doing breeding and projects, that'd be good, except I'm not really into breeding right now. I think there could be a possibility for that, but I think there's even a better way to breed figs than actually growing them from seed, which is crazy. That is a big thing that will be coming out hopefully next year that I would like to talk about more next year. But you can create new varieties without growing them from seed, which is mind blowing, if true. If true. I don't even know if it's true, but so far it seems like it is. Legend Prime said, importance of sunlight with heat and Carlos, you think you can ripen figs like black Madeiras with 13 hours of direct sunlight and black tarps? Yeah, why not? If you got a really nice microclimate, the big thing this year, I've got a lot of my potted figs earlier than prior years, is I put the potted figs out earlier than my last frost. My last frost is around May 1st, May 15th, somewhere in there. I put them out the last week of March on the patio, and luckily we didn't get a single frost from late March to then. Oh, yeah. Breaking Bad on figs, that's funny. All right, so let me answer this one question here. By the way, Legend, yeah, I think it is possible. I just think that you need to give them as much heat as possible. and the sun obviously gives more heat. So yeah, if you put just by putting them out earlier made a huge difference for me this year. Let's see. And then that question, where do you get all your varieties? Okay, so the legit business question. I'm going to answer this, guys, and then we're going to get out of here. And I appreciate all you guys for staying around and all that. All right. So, great tips to structure a home garden orchard so it can be organized as a legit business. Well, any legit business needs something to sell, right? So, how do you want to make money? One of the best ways to make money, or let's say starting a business, is to have a huge social media presence. It just makes it easier. So, you can do it without it, but it's a lot harder. So, I would recommend any business starting with social media and really learning that and learning SEO. It could be depending on your business, what route you want to go, but teaching people things like we do here on this channel, that's obviously providing value. Or providing entertainment is another way. Now, if you're going to do that, let's say you want to provide entertainment of your home garden and orchard, which this channel is not really entertainment. I know you guys get entertainment from it, but my videos are structured around education and not around entertainment. If I want to do a really entertaining video, to edit the crap out of it, put all this crazy music in it, and I don't know, pretend to be somebody else that I wasn't. Um, I would probably have a dedicated camera person and probably people editing my videos. So if you're doing it that way and it's for entertainment, you can make more money with ads than education. Education isn't going to get you a whole lot of money on YouTube from ads or from social media. Maybe if you are on TikTok, I don't even know much about TikTok, but maybe you could find a way to make some money that way on TikTok with these really stupid short videos. Um, but that's one way to do it, essentially, is what I'm saying, is ad revenue. Is that sustainable? Um, Probably not. So what you want to do is become independent from the social media platforms. And that therefore you need to sell something. So what are you going to sell? You need a niche. And if you don't have a niche, you can't have a legit business because that's a really important part of it is obviously marketing what you're selling and being able to sell what you sell. If you can't do either one of those two things, you might as well forget about it. So, um, you could sell fruit, you could sell produce, you could sell whatever, vegetables. I think there's a, obviously, Troy could speak to this. There's a market for people wanting fresh figs, and that's going to happen all over the country. That's an untapped market. You want to do another fruit or vegetable? There are quite a few niche fruits and vegetables that I think could be a legit business or provide a legitimate amount of income. Man, I think even grass-fed, regenerative, raised cattle can be, you know, a very lucrative business if done right. So, or just at least, small amount of income. You add up these small amounts of income sources, they add up to a pretty big thing. Um, so you got to figure out what you want to sell. Do you want to sell produce? Do you want to sell cuttings, plants? Do you want to be a nursery? Do you want to offer a service, right? What service can you provide people? Do you have expertise in anything? Can you do consulting work? Can you do you want to be a landscaper? Um, do you want to install orchards in people's homes? Do you want to install gardens? Do you want to offer garden boxes to people? Uh, flower arrangements? Do you want to sell cut flowers? There's a lot of um, is that answering your question? Yeah, so investing in the known varieties and upholding their performance is an honorable endeavor. Finding new varieties is more of niche. Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of money in known varieties. And let's say if you wanted to wholesale, um, if you wanted to wholesale fig trees to, let's say, Home Depot, then that would work, you know? That's a great way to make money. So you could wholesale brown turkey for goodness sakes. Most people they don't know anything about figs, so they're buying brown turkey in Hardy Chicago at Home Depot all the time and Lowe's. Um, but I do think the work that a lot of us have done, uh, we could put this together and really, as I've put together in this article, and that just is a great way to now solidify, hey, these varieties are just significantly better than what you get at the big box stores. They're significantly better than what you get at the mail order nurseries that you can find all over the internet or any nursery that's local. Grow these ones instead, and that's obviously a way to make some money. Um, Hopefully that answered your question there. Sandy said, "What's your favorite advice or most important advice you give to the fig community?" Uh, oh, thanks, man. Appreciate that donation. That's really nice of you. You don't have to do that, man. That's awesome. I'll try to do a follow up. I don't know if Carlos is interested or not, but uh, I'm not sure what else there is to learn from Carlos. I'm sure he's got something he could teach me, but this current moment, I'm not sure what that is. Um, he gave me that really big tip this year, and that made a huge difference. Uh, what advice would I give to the fig communities? I'm gonna answer this, guys, and then I'm gonna get out of here. Man, it's a good question. I already went on the Fig Fanatic forum, which is a brand new community. I wasn't gonna talk about it because I don't like. This is the new R Figs, basically. If anyone's interested, I think this has got a good chance of becoming a really nice community of people. Because I know the leadership and I know their character. So I think if you want to have a good community, it's about the leadership and their hidden intentions. So uh, this community has people with good intentions behind it. They don't even want to do it. They don't even want to run it because it's just too much work. I don't want to do it because it would be too much work. If I wanted to create a fig community, I'm sure I could have. I could have done it years ago. Could have thousands of people in it. But I'm not going to be the policeman of adults. I'm not going to be the babysitter of adults. I have other things to do. So um, I put actually my advice in here to wish them good luck in their new endeavor. And you can read about it in this thread. But generally, I think you just got to be nice to people. And that's about it. You have to uh, have a lot of patience too. There's a certain person I think that's cut out for that for the fig communities, and there's a certain person that isn't. So take from the communities what you can while you can, and that's it. Um, it's yeah, it's very different for everybody. All right, peoples. I'm out. Thanks again for joining me here. I'm sorry for the rough. This is a really rough uh time, all the tissues and blowing my nose and all that. I can't think straight. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed it and yeah, we'll catch you guys for the next one, all right? Thanks again. Take care, everybody.